November 13, 1942. Ironbottom Sound, 01:38 hours. The sea is black, not dark, black. A flat, lightless void broken only by the faint phosphorescent churn of propellers cutting water at flank speed. You can almost feel it. The tension hanging low over the Solomon Islands, thick as the humid night air. Sweat runs down the backs of sailors standing at their battle stations. Cigarette butts glow briefly, then vanish as they're crushed under boots. Somewhere off the port bow, a ship's hull creaks softly, metal complaining under strain. No moon, no stars, no visibility worth trusting. For decades, the Imperial Japanese Navy has ruled nights like this. Japanese officers know, that darkness is their ally. Their sailors are trained to see shapes where others see nothing, to sense distance by sound, by instinct, by experience earned in endless night drills. Their doctrine is built on it. Their pride depends on it. American sailors, by contrast, are supposed to be blind. That is what Japanese naval planners were taught. That is what they taught their men. Aboard the Japanese battleship Hiei, Vice Admiral Abe Hiroaki peers into the darkness through binoculars that show him nothing. Around him, officers wait for the first sign, a silhouette, a muzzle flash, anything that proves the enemy is there. They expect to see before they fight. They do not know they have already been seen. 22,000 yards away, aboard the American cruiser USS Helena, a young radar operator stares at a green glowing screen inside a cramped, dimly lit compartment. His world is not darkness, it is light. Ghostly arcs, blips sliding smoothly across the scope. Targets, multiple. He reports calmly into his headset. Contact, bearing 270, range closing. Above him, in the bridge, Captain Gilbert Hoover listens, face unreadable. He doesn't look into the night. He doesn't need to. Radar tells him more than eyes ever could. The Japanese formation is laid bare. Every ship, every heading, every speed, painted invisibly by radio waves bouncing off steel hulls in the dark. American fire control computers begin calculating solutions automatically. Gears whirring, numbers aligning. No stars required, no moon needed. The Japanese still believe they are hunting. At Imperial Navy headquarters, radar is regarded as a novelty. Unreliable, imprecise, easily fooled. Japanese planners pride themselves on superior optics, superior night vision, superior seamanship. They consider radar a crutch for sailors who lack instinct. Some officers openly mock it. "You cannot fight a naval battle by looking at a screen," one commander famously remarked earlier in the war. War is felt, not calculated. Tonight, that belief will be tested. At 01:48, the order comes aboard USS Helena. Open fire! The American cruisers erupt in flame. 6-inch guns thunder almost simultaneously. Muzzle flashes ripping open the night. Shells scream outward, not toward shadows, not toward guesses, but toward precise, radar-derived coordinates. The Japanese ships are caught completely off guard. On Hiei, alarms shriek. Lookouts shout conflicting bearings. Officers scramble to understand where the fire is coming from. The first shells slam into superstructure, tearing through steel, killing men who never saw the enemy that killed them. The night belongs to the Americans now. Japanese gunners struggle to respond. They fire star shells, bright flares that blossom overhead, briefly turning the sea silver-white. For a heartbeat, silhouettes appear, and then they are gone. The Americans don't need the light. Their radar tracks every maneuver, every turn, every attempt to escape. Fire control adjusts automatically as Japanese ships try desperately to change course. It feels to the Japanese crews like being hunted by ghosts. A Japanese officer later describes it simply. They fired as if they were watching us in daylight. Within minutes, Ironbottom Sound becomes a chaos of fire, explosions, and wreckage. Destroyers vanish in towering columns of flame. Command signals are cut. Formations disintegrate. This is not the elegant night battle the Imperial Navy trained for. This is slaughter. And yet, even as the night burns, many Japanese officers still don't understand why. They assume luck, surprise, temporary confusion. Radar does not yet haunt them. Not fully. When dawn comes, the sea is littered with oil, debris, and bodies. Smoke rises lazily from burning wrecks. American ships withdraw, battered but victorious. The Japanese count their losses. They do not count radar. Not yet, because admitting what truly happened means admitting something far worse than defeat. It means admitting that the rules of naval warfare, rules Japan once dominated, have quietly changed in the dark, and that the enemy can now see without being seen. The night, once Japan's greatest weapon, has betrayed them. But this is only the beginning, because what happens at Guadalcanal will not stay at Guadalcanal. And the next time Japanese ships sail into darkness, the Americans will be waiting, already watching, already calculating, already firing. Tokyo, Naval General Staff Headquarters. Early 1943. Maps cover the walls. The Pacific rendered in neat grids and confident arrows. Red pins mark American movements. Blue pins mark Japanese strength. On paper, the balance still looks manageable. Admirals speak in measured tones. Staff officers take notes. The atmosphere is controlled, disciplined, almost serene. Too serene. Reports from Guadalcanal are troubling, yes, but they are framed carefully. Losses are attributed to confusion, poor coordination, unlucky timing. The night action is described as unfavorable circumstances, not a doctrinal failure. No one wants to say the word out loud. Radar. The Imperial Japanese Navy has radar sets of its own now. Crude, unreliable, limited in range. They are viewed as auxiliaries, not authorities. Useful, perhaps, for early warning, but never decisive. Never something you trust more than a trained eye. Japanese doctrine is built on a belief that borders on faith. The human senses, properly trained, will always outperform machines. Night optics, binocular discipline, recognition silhouettes memorized until officers can identify a cruiser by the slope of its mast at 10,000 yards. These are the skills that won victories at Savo Island, Java Sea, and countless exercises before the war. American sailors, by contrast, are seen as procedural, rigid, dependent on checklists and equipment, dangerous in daylight, clumsy in darkness. That belief dies slowly. In March 1943, Rear Admiral Raizo Tanaka, one of Japan's most aggressive and respected commanders, prepares another nighttime supply run down the slot toward Guadalcanal. His destroyers are fast. His crews are experienced. His confidence is absolute. This is what they do best. The Americans will never see them coming. Out at sea, the night feels familiar again. Engines hum steadily. Lookouts scan the horizon. The stars are sharp. The sea calm. This is Japanese territory. Then, without warning, shells begin landing among them. Not scattered fire, not ranging shots, direct hits. Destroyers are straddled almost immediately. One takes a shell through the bridge. Another loses steering. Fire erupts below decks, lighting faces in sudden orange terror. The Americans have not fired star shells. They have not illuminated the night. They don't need to. Radar-directed fire control is now routine aboard U.S. cruisers and destroyers. Operators track Japanese ships continuously, feeding targeting data straight into gun directors. By the time Japanese lookouts realize they've been detected, the firing solutions are already complete. Tanaka survives the battle. Barely. But his force is shattered. For the first time, Doubt creeps into Japanese after-action reports. Phrases begin to appear. Enemy fire unusually accurate. Engagement commenced without visual contact. American ships maneuvered as if possessing foreknowledge. Still, the implication is resisted. If radar is decisive, then everything Japan believes about naval combat is obsolete. And that is unacceptable. Within the Japanese Navy, a quiet divide forms. Younger officers, often those who survived these night actions, whisper among themselves. They describe American gunfire that tracks turns instantly. Salvos that adjust mid-course. Hits delivered through smoke, rain squalls, and total darkness. Senior commanders listen and dismiss. Exaggeration, some say. Enemy training, others insist. Temporary advantage, but the battles continue. Cape Esperance, Kula Gulf, Kolombangara. Each night action follows the same pattern. Initial Japanese confidence, sudden American gunfire, confusion, losses, withdrawal. American ships are not perfect. They are hit. Some are sunk. But the pattern is unmistakable. The side that sees first now decides the fight. And radar sees everything. In private diaries, Japanese officers begin writing things they will never put in official reports. They know where we are before we know where they are. It is as if the sea itself betrays us. We fire at shadows. They fire at certainty. One destroyer captain writes bitterly that night, combat has become a contest between eyes and machines. And the machines do not blink. The realization is slow, painful, and deeply humiliating. Japan's greatest naval advantage, night fighting, is no longer an advantage at all. Worse, it has become a liability. Every attempt to close distance only brings Japanese ships deeper into a firing solution they cannot see. Torpedoes are launched blindly. Maneuvers are guessed. Commanders fight by instinct against enemies fighting by information. And information always wins. By mid-1943, Japanese planners attempt adjustments. Tighter formations, more aggressive torpedo spreads, improved radar training. But the changes are too late and too limited. American radar technology improves faster than Japan can adapt. Centimeter wave radar, better plotting rooms, integrated combat information centers. The Americans are no longer just detecting ships. They are predicting them. Courses extrapolated, speeds calculated, turns anticipated before helmsmen even order them. Night battles stop being contests. They become executions. And somewhere in the back of every Japanese officer's mind, a terrifying thought takes shape. If radar can do this at sea, what else can it change? Because the night has fallen, not just over the ocean, but over an entire way of war. And once darkness stops protecting you, there is nowhere left to hide. November 14th, 1943. Ironbottom Sound, just after midnight. The sea is black and oily, reflecting nothing. Smoke hangs low over the water, the residue of earlier fighting. Cordite and burning fuel trapped beneath a ceiling of clouds. Wreckage drifts past silently. Splintered planks, empty life jackets, the occasional body face down in the swell. This place already has a name whispered with unease. Ironbottom Sound. American ships move cautiously. Radars humming, scopes glowing softly inside darkened combat information centers. Voices are low, precise, calm. Bearings are called out in clipped phrases. Course changes ordered without raised voices. They know something is out there. They always do. On the Japanese side, Rear Admiral Nobutake Kondo advances with confidence sharpened by desperation. His force includes battleships Kirishima and heavy cruisers, powerful ships meant to crush Henderson Field once and for all. The plan relies on darkness, surprise, and the assumption that American forces are blind beyond visual range. That assumption is already wrong. At 0024, American radar operators aboard USS Washington and USS South Dakota detect contacts. faint at first, then multiplying. Blips stretch across the scope in a line that tells an experienced operator everything: course, speed, intent. Enemy ships, many of them, closing fast. Inside Washington, Captain Glenn B. Davis studies the radar plot. He does not look out the bridge windows. He doesn't need to. The fight is already unfolding in green phosphorescent light on a screen below decks. Fire control solutions are calculated before a single Japanese sailor knows he's been seen. When the American guns open fire, the effect is immediate and devastating. 16-inch shells tear across the darkness, guided not by eyes, but by mathematics. Kirishima is struck again and again. Hits smash into her superstructure, her turrets, her steering gear. Fires erupt along her decks, turning the battleship into a burning silhouette against the night. Japanese lookouts finally spot the enemy, but only because the enemy has already fired. Orders are shouted. Searchlights flick on too late. Secondary batteries open fire at shadows. Torpedoes are launched toward guesses. It is chaos. South Dakota is hit repeatedly, her superstructure mangled by Japanese fire. But Washington remains unseen, invisible not because she is hidden, but because the Japanese do not know where to look. Radar gives her godlike anonymity. From Washington, gunnery officers calmly walk their salvos across Kirishima. Each correction tightens the pattern. Each hit compounds damage. Within minutes, the Japanese battleship is doomed. Her crew fights desperately, but the outcome is no longer in doubt. At 03:25, Kirishima capsizes and sinks. The silence that follows is not relief. It is shock. Survivors in the water stare at the sky, at the distant flashes of gunfire fading away. They were never given a chance to fight properly. They were engaged, tracked, and destroyed by an enemy they could not see. For the Japanese Navy, this night marks something far worse than the loss of a battleship. It marks the end of illusion. Back in Tokyo, reports arrive stripped of drama, but heavy with implication. Battleships destroyed in darkness. Enemy fire accurate beyond visual range. Engagement initiated without detection. This is no longer anecdotal. This is systemic. Staff officers pore over transcripts. Engagement diagrams are redrawn again and again, each time arriving at the same conclusion. American radar-directed gunnery is not a trick. It is doctrine. The night, once Japan's greatest ally, now belongs to the Americans. And unlike a ship or a weapon, doctrine cannot be sunk. Japanese commanders begin to adjust their language. Where they once spoke of enemy luck, they now speak of enemy advantage. Where they once mocked reliance on machines, they now acknowledge, quietly, that machines have rewritten the rules. But acknowledgement does not equal solution. Japan lacks the industrial base to mass-produce advanced radar. Training pipelines are thin. Fuel shortages limit exercises. Every loss now carries weight that cannot be replaced. Meanwhile, the Americans refine their system relentlessly. Radar scopes become clearer, procedures tighter, crews better trained. What was once experimental becomes routine. What was once an edge becomes inevitability. Night actions no longer inspire confidence among Japanese crews. They inspire dread. Sailors whisper about invisible enemies, about shells that come without warning, about fighting a foe who knows where you are before you exist to him at all. The sea has changed, and the Japanese Navy, for all its tradition, discipline, and courage, is suddenly fighting in a world where tradition no longer matters. The final realization begins to take hold. This war will not be decided by who sails better, or who fights braver, but by who processes information faster. And Japan is already behind. December 1943, South Pacific. A moonless night, calm seas, low clouds pressing down like a lid. Japanese destroyers cut through the water in disciplined columns, bows slicing black waves with practiced precision. Their crews are veterans, survivors of Savo Island, Tassafaronga, countless night runs down the slot. These men were trained for darkness, raised on the belief that night belonged to Japan. But something has changed. Below decks on American cruisers and destroyers, the glow of radar scopes paints faces an eerie green. Operators speak softly, almost casually, as contacts bloom on the screens. Range, bearing, speed, course. Each piece of information slots into place like parts of a machine assembling itself. No one rushes to the bridge windows anymore. The fight is already happening, unseen. On the Japanese flagship, a young signals officer peers into the darkness, straining for the faintest silhouette. He knows the Americans are somewhere ahead. Intelligence has warned him, but intelligence offers no comfort when the sea shows nothing. Then it happens again. Without warning, shells begin to fall. Water erupts around the lead destroyer, towering columns crashing down on her deck. Seconds later, a direct hit obliterates her forward gun mount. Men are thrown like rag dolls. Power fails. Radios go dead. The enemy has fired first. Again. Searchlights snap on in panic, stabbing uselessly into empty blackness. Orders overlap. Torpedo tubes swing toward guessed bearings. Engines scream as helmsmen attempt evasive maneuvers they cannot see their way through. On the American side, fire control solutions update continuously. Radar tracks every turn, every speed change. When Japanese ships maneuver, the computers adjust faster than human reflexes ever could. This is not combat as Japan understands it. This is execution by process. At the Battle of Cape St. George, Rear Admiral Arleigh Burke commands American destroyers with lethal restraint. His ships remain dark, radars sweeping silently, guns ready. When the order comes, it is precise and final. Torpedoes strike first. Gunfire finishes the rest. 3 Japanese destroyers are sunk. Not one American ship is hit. The survivors will later struggle to describe what happened. There was no duel, no exchange, no chance to respond. Just sudden destruction delivered from nowhere. Back in Japan, naval planners face an unthinkable truth. Their doctrine, built over decades, is obsolete. For years, Japanese night fighting emphasized eyesight, instinct, and courage. Officers were trained to read the sea, to feel distance, to judge enemy movement by intuition alone. Technology was considered a supplement, not a substitute. American radar has inverted that hierarchy. Now machines see first. Machines decide first. Machines kill first. Human skill is still required, but it is no longer decisive on its own. Attempts are made to adapt. Radar sets are installed on some Japanese ships, but training is rushed. Equipment is inferior. Coordination between radar operators and gunnery crews is clumsy, untested under fire. And there is another problem, deeper than hardware: trust. Many senior officers do not fully believe the machine. They hesitate to fire without visual confirmation. They delay. They doubt. The Americans do not. By 1944, radar-directed gunnery is no longer experimental. It is doctrine drilled into every crew. Destroyers, cruisers, battleships all operate as nodes in a single information network. The Japanese fight ship to ship. The Americans fight system to system. Each engagement widens the gap. Night after night, Japanese captains feel the same creeping unease. The darkness no longer feels like cover. It feels like exposure, like standing in open ground while unseen eyes watch from the hills. Some begin ordering searchlights kept off entirely, not to remain hidden, but to delay the moment of humiliation when the enemy reveals himself first. Others cling to old habits, hoping courage will close the distance that technology has opened. It never does. By mid-1944, Japanese sailors whisper a new truth among themselves. If the Americans fight at night, one mutters, we will not see tomorrow. Radar has not simply changed tactics. It has changed morale. And wars are not won only by sinking ships. They are won by convincing the enemy that the future no longer belongs to him. In the darkness of the Pacific, that realization spreads silently, like oil across water. The slaughter is no longer surprising. It is expected, and expectation is the final weapon. Spring 1944. Truk Lagoon, just before dawn. A Japanese cruiser lies at anchor. Her hull scarred from earlier encounters, her crew exhausted from weeks of constant alert. The men sleep in shifts now. No one truly rests anymore. Night has become a time of tension, not advantage. Below decks, a junior officer studies a chart he has memorized 100 times. Sea lanes, approach vectors, distances once judged by eye and experience. He knows these waters. He grew up believing that knowledge of the sea was power. But knowledge no longer feels sufficient. Somewhere beyond the horizon, American task groups are moving, unseen, unheard, yet precisely aware of every ship that drifts, every engine that turns. The officer has heard the rumors. Everyone has. They see us before we exist. In Tokyo, the Naval General Staff receives after-action reports that grow more desperate by the month. The language shifts subtly at first. Phrases like unexpected contact and enemy fire opened without warning appear more frequently. Then the tone hardens. Enemy radar superiority decisive. Visual detection impossible before engagement. Night operations no longer favorable. These are not excuses. They are admissions. For a Navy built on the mythos of night dominance, this is an existential wound. The Imperial Japanese Navy was shaped by Tsushima, by surprise, by boldness in darkness. It believed technology could never replace the warrior's eye. Radar has proven otherwise. American commanders now plan night actions with the same confidence they once reserved for daylight. Task forces maneuver aggressively, knowing their screens will warn them long before danger approaches. Destroyers are sent ahead as hunters, not scouts, guided by invisible beams sweeping the sea. At Surigao Strait, the final battleship duel in history, radar ensures that Japanese ships sail directly into a perfectly arranged trap. American fire is coordinated, overlapping, merciless. Old battleships rise from Pearl Harbor's ashes, their guns guided not by sight, but by signal. The Japanese never truly see what kills them. By late 1944, Japanese captains avoid night engagements whenever possible. When they cannot, they brace for impact before the first shot is fired. Morale erodes in quiet ways. Men hesitate. Officers second-guess. Confidence drains not from losses, but from inevitability. You can almost feel it aboard their ships. The sense that courage no longer bends outcomes. That skill has been outpaced. That bravery is now something to endure, not wield. Across the Pacific, American sailors rarely think about radar as a revolution. To them, it is simply part of the ship. Another tool, another gauge, another system that works when trained properly. The Americans trust their machines. The Japanese fear them. After the war, surviving Japanese naval officers are interviewed. Many speak openly, without bitterness. They do not blame American sailors. They do not even blame American industry. They blame assumption. We believed night was eternal, one former staff officer admits. We believed it belonged to us. Radar took that belief and shattered it without spectacle. No dramatic announcement, no single decisive moment. Just repeated. Clinical proof. The Americans did not outfight Japan in the dark. They erased the dark entirely. Naval warfare would never return to what it had been. From that point forward, invisibility would be temporary. surprise would belong to censors, and victory would favor those who could see without being seen. What Japan dismissed as an unnecessary complication became the foundation of modern naval combat. And by the time that truth was undeniable, the Pacific was already filled with wrecks that never fired a shot back. In war, arrogance is loud, but transformation is silent. Radar did not roar like guns or burn like bombs. It hummed softly in steel compartments, spinning unseen, rewriting the rules while its enemies laughed. Until the laughter stopped,